Our speaker is Iryna Pinich from Kyiv National Linguistic University, Ukraine, and Södertörn University, Sweden. Today, she presents her talk on the topic, Conceptualizing the Spirituality of Love in Ukrainian.
Hello, everyone. My name is Iryna Pinich, and I'm Associate Professor at Kyiv National Linguistic University. It is a pleasure to partake in the conference and to have an opportunity to present my research. The title of my presentation is Conceptualizing the Spirituality of Love in Ukrainian. As a linguist, I will explore the culturally specific ways in which the conceptual metaphor love is constructed. My research draws on conceptual metaphor theory and conceptual blending theory to explore how the symbolic domains of heart and soul generate emerging conceptual structures. I look forward to sharing my preliminary findings with you and engaging in a meaningful discussion. The conceptualization of love, blending its spiritual and physical dimensions, gives rise to a vast array of manifestations. This concept has generated a complex network of interconnected ideas, each with varying level of prominence, and such complexity requires analysis through the lens of conceptual metaphor theory. The key principle of the theory is the process of conceptual mapping or conceptual correspondence, which links abstract phenomena like love with more concrete sensory domains in a speaker's conceptual system. Thus, love conceptualization is often motivated by situational context, including flora and fauna, the surrounding world, natural phenomena, physical and physiological states, and their maintenance, and bodily dynamics. The social aspects of love involve interpersonal relationships, such as love is an opponent, communality, love is closeness or love is a bond, economic process, love is an economic exchange, competition, love is a game, and common beliefs, love is magic or love is deity. The inner discreteness of love's incarnations is also supported by the existence of two distinct notions for love, a general term любовь and a more specific romantic form, кохання. This conditional categorization within the concept allows for both esoteric and physical interpretations of love, as observed in the conventional metaphorical expressions in Ukrainian. The conceptual correspondences between the target domain of love and various source domains create figurative meaning by drawing on embodied knowledge of the world, which is shaped by a culturally specific context, situational, cognitive conceptual or ideological, and discursive, which is clearly reflected in the conventional linguistic expressions. Ukrainian love metaphors, therefore, exhibit these correlations, often drawing on endemic plants and birds. For instance, the intensity of love is conveyed by the conventional expression that refers to the intensity of the feeling, as in fall in love like a devil into a dry pear tree or an old willow, while the beauty of a beloved is linked to poppy blossoms. Similarly, to cool over, an expression inspired by the behavior of turtle doves, is associated with cherishing and caressing a beloved person. A particularly striking conceptual correspondence in Ukrainian idiomatic love-related expressions blends the domain of love with magic or spiritual practices. Consider phrases such as magic enchantment of love and to drink the potion of love. Another example, mariti, meaning to be obsessed with someone, to daydream, has deeper roots as it is historically related to an ancient Slavic pagan deity Mara. This bias toward the spiritual interpretation of love in Ukrainian is particularly evident in its association with the soul and symbolic heart, serving as further evidence of the contextually specific cognitive conceptual feature of the heart centrality in the culture. The notion of the heart centrality as a defining characteristic of Ukrainian culture and philosophy is rooted in principles of spirituality, which originated in early practices of nature deification and were later shaped by the religious doctrines of Christianity. The notion of chordocentrism in Ukrainian philosophical thought seeks to encapsulate the philosophy of the heart, positioning the symbolic heart as a locus of thought, feeling, and emotion. The interpretation of the world and the self in Ukrainian culture contrasts with purely rational deliberation, emphasizing instead the wisdom of heartfelt reasoning, which unites heart, morality, and love. Gregori Skovoroda, an 18th century philosopher of the heart, elucidates this principle, stating, happiness is located in the heart is in love, and love is in the law of eternal. A notable feature of love conceptualization in Ukrainian is the recurring tendency to draw from the source domains of the soul and the symbolic heart. An in-depth dictionary-based analysis displayed the following trends. Out of 257 figurative expressions for love, 122 linguistic expressions contain the term heart and or soul, accounting for nearly 47.5% of the tested love-related metaphors. Among these, 85 expressions, making 35% of the dataset, specifically include heart as a compulsory element. The conceptual correlations between the source domain, heart and soul, and the target domain, love, create a stable semantic network reinforced by a consistent set of metaphorical mappings. The mappings are structured around commonalities in locus, place, praxis, experience, telos, purpose, and continuity, forming key conceptual projections. These projections illustrate the associations between the centrality of the symbolic heart within the psychophysiological system associated to centrality of love, vulnerability of the symbolic heart, and the vitality of the symbolic heart associated with vulnerability and vitality of love, respectively, and the continuity of the symbolic heart is associated with the continuity of love. Notably, the continuity of the symbolic heart pertains exclusively to its cultural interpretation rather than its physiological function, which is limited by a natural lifespan. Similarly, the correspondences between the domains of soul and love arise from these shared features, including locus, telos, and continuum. In framing love, the symbolic heart and soul, conceptualized as the internal source of feelings, the center of one's emotions, will, and spiritual life, are intricately linked, forming a blend that expands into broader, universal domains and is reflected in conventional metaphors. This connection is evident in the literal translations of Ukrainian metaphors associated with love, which draw from a diverse range of source domains. For instance, container, with a literal translation to throw out from one's heart, meaning to fall out of love, or journey, with a literal translation to find the path to the heart, which stands for seeking reciprocity and love, or entity in motion, where the literal translation, the heart stirred, is associated with love coming into being. Movement inside or outside a container, where the literal translation, to penetrate into the very soul or heart, is associated with feelings of affection coming into being. Or substance, with the literal translation, to put or add more soul or heart into something, means to treat someone or something with the utmost attention, love, and devotion. Similarly, other source domains such as bird, plant, fire, closeness, and opponent, which you can see in the slide, are related to the heart. The illustrated interaction of multiple mental spaces aims to embody and more precisely conceptualize the spirituality of love, providing a richer correlation to objective reality. This occurs against the backdrop of conceptual representations based on centrality, vitality, vulnerability, and continuity. This regularity invites the analysis of the conceptual network of love through the lens of conceptual blending theory, which uncovers the backstage cognitive processes that operate within multiple conceptual blends, allowing a deeper and more detailed analysis of metaphorical processes. These blends emerge from mental input spaces where different domains interact dynamically, and the key blending processes include composition, establishing relationships between elements from different input spaces, completion, integrating the blend with long-term cognitive structures and enabling inferential reasoning, and elaboration, actively simulating or developing new meaning within the blend. The application of the theory provides insight into the discursive specific of framing the spiritual aspect of love, which is no longer an active process of online cognitive blending, but rather a stable structure stored in long-term memory. This results in unidirectional mappings from the source domains, symbolic heart, soul, to the target domain, love. Nonetheless, most conventional source-target metaphors function as prototypical single-scope networks, where the framing input is the source domain and the input in focus is the target domain. This regularity is reflected in the unidirectionality of the conceptual metaphor "love is a bird," which is evident in a set of stable mappings and comprises 5 distinct mappings, which you can see in the slide, bringing the association between a bird and love. The integration of love, heart, and bird within the blended space is facilitated by the generic space, which involves shared features of life, motion, and emotion. Both hearts and birds are living, dynamic, and associated with emotion, movement, and expression. They share properties of activity, vulnerability, and responsiveness to external stimuli. This suggests that some pre-existing conceptual correspondences in the cognitive network of love were inherited in the blended space of the symbolic heart bird. Thus, input space 1 frames the heart as the seat of emotions and the source of love's vitality, structuring its meaning within the conceptual blend. And space 2, input space 2, frames the bird as embodying freedom, movement, and song, projecting these qualities into the conceptual blend. The blend, therefore, inherits the elements of the structure of the input spaces, but not the whole scenario frame. Therefore, the heart takes on the properties of a bird, leading to conceptual extension that are further elaborated in the correspondences between the target domain love and the source domain that inherently blend the idea of heart bird. A singing heart bird then is associated with the jaw of a person in love, a soaring heart bird with longing for a beloved, the sound of the heart bird with expressing love, and the synchronous singing of two birds with harmonious love. The framing of the blend is conceptualized as an emergent structure that integrates and transforms selected projections from the input spaces. For instance, in the literal translation of the Ukrainian idiomatic expression, "the heart aches sweetly," the input space of the symbolic heart contributes the features of vitality and vulnerability, while the input space of physical annoyance provides projections of risk or harm, inflicted damage and pain. These elements blend to form the symbolic heart pain frame, where emotional suffering in love is metaphorically conceptualized through physical pain. This blend is linguistically reflected in idiomatic expressions that draw on the following metaphorical mappings within the frame of love is a symbolic suffering heart. A heart suffering pain is associated with torments of love. To inflict damage on the heart is mapped onto sacrificing oneself for love. To grab or touch the heart is associated with to affect someone with beauty. A heart aching pleasantly is associated with the bittersweet pain of parting with a loved one. And a heart free from suffering is associated with peaceful, fulfilling love. This analysis leads to the following conclusions. The spirituality of love in Ukrainian is reflected in the conceptual mappings between the target domain and the domains of the symbolic heart and soul. These highly salient domains are linked to broader, more physically perceptible domains. The conceptual integration of these mental spaces with the input space of symbolic heart, soul, is shaped by cognitive, conceptual, and discursive contexts unique to the culture. The blending process generates new framing structures inherited through selective projections from the input spaces, offering a more nuanced understanding of love spirituality. And analyzing the conceptual frame of love through the conceptual blending theory provides insight into the complex processes of conceptualizing its spiritual aspects, which become progressively entrenched in the metaphorical mappings "love is a symbolic heart" and "love is a soul."